The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham food bank in Beckton, who supplies sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.
Everywhere we go, everywhere we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. West Ham are massive. Everywhere we go, West Ham are massive. Everywhere we go, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive. Everywhere we go, West Ham are massive. Everywhere we go.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the West Ham Massive. Thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to like, comment on and share the stream to your socials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell icon for alerts and new content. Don't forget to click all. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this endeavour. And a little bit of housekeeping, which I always like to get out of the way, just in case there's any people that are of a sensitive disposition. With the language here could get a little bit fruity at times. It very often does. If this is something that is not your cup of Tetley, then please feel free to like, subscribe, all that, and then clear off out of the room because you might get the ump. Anyway, we are here to discuss, Ben and I, match day 21 out of 38, where we make the trip to sunny Yorkshire, Sheffield United, the Carlos Tevez derby. Ben, This should be on paper a pretty straightforward affair, should it not?
No.
Well, we thought that Bristol City was going to be a fairly straightforward affair, didn't we?
Yeah. Look, if you're as naive enough to just look at the league table, then yeah, do you know what I mean? You might surmise that we can turn up and just rock up and get the 3 points. However, the game's not played like that.
No.
And you know, we've got some big injuries to big players, and we're off the back of a few bad performances and results, mate. So no, it's you're doing a bit of research for the game, Rob. Do I think Sheffield United are a good side? No, I don't. But that doesn't mean we're just going to turn up and roll them over.
Keep an eye on the ticker at the bottom, ladies and gentlemen. It will intermittently change, and it's got the officials there. Ben, as far as the Sheffield United are concerned this season, from what you've seen of them, and I appreciate you're not a Sheffield United fan, so it might be quite limited.
Yeah.
What has been your general observations about them so far?
To be honest, mate, it's like they're in a mini league of their own, aren't they? You know what I mean? There's a few teams, them, Burnley, and maybe Everton, a few of the other, Luton, that they're nailed on to go down. Do you know what I mean? But there's probably a chance one of them might get out of it. You know what I mean? So, if I'm honest, mate, who was their man? Because I know Chris Wilder's just rejoined them, isn't he? So
it was Paul Heckingbottom before.
Paul Heckingbottom. So look, didn't know much about Heckingbottom. You know, I think what's quite interesting is they come up 2 or 3 seasons ago, and that was with Chris Wilder, and you know, and they give it a good shot. They were dogged and determined and all that, but then they went down, and they've come back up, and they've pretty much got exactly the same team. And I think that tells me one thing is that no one even really wanted any of their players. Do you know what I mean? They're not, in my opinion, they're not. There's not really many of their players that are Premier League players. You know, they're they're championship players that are trying to give it a good go. I think just looking at their squad before the game, there's only a couple. I don't know if we'll come on to this in terms of who their star men are, but to be honest, Rob, there's only probably a couple of players in that whole squad that I personally think are Premier League level players, and that's probably the reason they're rooted to bottom of the league. The fact is, Luton, little old Luton, are giving a better fight of staying in the league than Sheffield United. So, but that being said, I think they've nicked a couple of good players recently, and Wilder coming back will probably give them a bit of a boost to try and stay in the league. So, that, like I say, that combined with the injuries and our recent form, it's not like I think we're going to roll up there and turn them over 5-0.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you referenced the squad and Kent, and I'm sorry to hear you got a virus and you're going to miss the game today, mate. Kent, in his earlier comment, referenced 2 players that he thinks are, in his opinion, the standout players, as you've referenced, not that there's many.
Right.
James McAtee and Oliver McBurney, but I think could be the player that might be potentially the difference, if anyone's going to be the difference between the 2 teams in the opposition ranks.
Yeah, well, I just noted down here, Rob, like one of them was James McAtee. I think he looks like a good young lad. Obviously, he's come through the City Youth setup.
Yep.
I think he had a loan last season. I don't know, that might have been at Sheffield United maybe when they come up. He looks quite a talented player that can sort of create chances. So he's one that I noted down. And actually, I noted down Ben Brereton Diaz. Don't know if he's I don't know if he's actually started since he's joined. I don't know if he's fit.
No.
He
came on against Gillingham.
Okay,
he got a few minutes against them.
So look, maybe he's just building up his fitness. I think he had a good goal scoring record, but I look at their side. Do you know what? I woke up this morning and I was thinking, right, who's Sheffield United's danger man? And I'm gonna sound out a touch here. And I thought, oh, that Sander Berg's a good player. And then, and I think he's at fucking Brentford, isn't he?
No, Burnley, isn't it?
Is he at fucking Burnley? Oh, motherfucking! I need to get more info. I know a bit about West Ham, but some of the other teams not so much. But it's like, let's be honest, and this has not been nasty or horrible.
Yeah.
If he was that good a player, you wouldn't be at fucking Sheffield United, would you?
There is that.
They've got a few players that might have showed a bit of potential, but they're a battling side. They don't really have any good footballers. They're a little bit like us in that respect.
To be fair, we are 6th.
No, I know that, but no. To be honest, I look at it. Actually, when I think about it, and I think, without Paqueta, without Bowen, without Kudos, we're basically Sheffield United, Rob.
Yeah, there is that. So this might be an opportune moment for me to just sort of like get into the nuts and bolts of the team news. So as far as Sheffield United are concerned, I'm just going to read this article here and just sort of like take bits out of it. So you referenced Ben Brereton Diaz, who once upon a time was just plain old Ben Brereton, and then all of a sudden he put the Diaz on the end of his name, and all of a sudden he started scoring fucking goals, albeit in the Championship. Yeah. But anyway, so he starts scoring goals. He's now a Chilean international. He correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure he scored a goal or 2 against us for Blackburn Rovers in the League Cup season last season, didn't he? When we lost on penalties, I'm sure he did.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he scored at least one. He might have scored both. I don't know, but anyway. So he, as I say, he got his first few minutes against Gillingham in the FA Cup, and so he may well be involved in some capacity. Whether he starts, I don't know. But you've got other people that weren't risked for that game that possibly could be coming back, the likes of Austin Trusty, Anil Hamed Hodzic, and George Baldock. Tom Davies has had a thigh operation. He's back in training, but it looks like he's not going to be involved because obviously they've got to build up his fitness gradually and all the rest of it. Jaden Bogle had a concussion. He might be on the way back, but definitely out are the likes of Chris Bash and Max Lowe, John Egan, Daniel Jebison. They're not going to be involved. And they've also got players at the AFCON like Yasser Larouchi and Anus Ben Slimani. That's his name. Arsehole of a name, but what can you do? No, Anus. Anus.
Yeah, Anus Ben. Like, well, what's all this? Oh,
no, listen, that's his name. I'm reading his name's Anus. He's got an arsehole of a name. From our side of things, we know that Ben Rama's not going to be involved, obviously, for his red card. He's got a 3-game ban, and this is game 1 of that sequence. So he's not going to be involved, and he may well have played his last game in claret and blue. Jared Bowen, is he going to be involved? Is he not? David Moyes was very tight-lipped about that in the press conference that he did yesterday, day before, whatever. So, you know, that sort of like remains to be seen. There's also still a question mark over Pablo Fornals with a foot injury, and Edson Alvarez missed the game against Bristol City with a calf problem. And we also know, obviously, that Mohamed Kudus, Naya Fagur are out with AFCON. Lucas Paquetá's got a calf injury. Michael Antonio's got a knee injury. So, you know, we might have to sort of make a choice as our forward line between Mubama, Ings, Cornet, and possibly even Callum Marshall. Who knows, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, just, Rob, listening to those injuries, obviously we all know we've got a fair few, you know, and people missing. I don't think our injuries are as bad as some other teams. In that our injuries and people out is pretty much all up front. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's the whole throughout the team.
Yeah.
Now, I think listening to Sheffield United's injuries, that sounds quite a lot. That's some key players in all over the pitch for them, up front, defence. So, you know, they're a poor side and they're depleted through injuries.
Yeah.
You know, we should be able to get a positive result. One thing I will say, Brereton Diaz, obviously he went to Spain. It obviously didn't work out. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come back to Sheffield United. But he's always a player that I've felt would do a job for us. I mean, look, if we had Brereton Diaz right now with our injuries, he'd be starting for us. Do you know what I mean? I think he's an able backup in the Premier League for the cup games and injuries. He's a big lump. He's got a bit of pace. He can score a goal. I actually thought, albeit at championship level, he had a little bit about him, and it was a shame no one in the Premier League give him a chance, just to see if he could cut it at the higher level. But look, hopefully he's still working his way to fitness, and I prefer him not to be involved today because I actually think he's a bit of a threat for them.
Yeah. Well, let's flip that question. Who's the West Ham player that you think could be key? Bearing in mind the absentees that I've listed, of which we've got a few ourselves. So who do you think's the key?
Well, do you know what? I think what's apparent, based on the last few games and based on the people that are available, I think Edson Alvarez has become so important to the team. And I think just the last game with Souček and Ward-Prowse, who look, I think in a midfield 3 with Alvarez, it's like Souček and Ward-Prowse do bring something to the table. I just feel like without having Alvarez in there in terms of his legs, his tackling, his passing ability, when it's just Ward-Prowse and Souček, all of a sudden I think that looks a very immobile and not
lacking craft.
Can't get around the pitch so much. It just looks a bit cumbersome. So I think getting thank you guys.
Cheers, Mark.
I think getting Alvarez back in the side fit can change the whole complexion of the midfield and the team. And that could be the key to a positive result because, looking at the team we're probably going to put out, I can't see us creating loads, so I think it's going to be Morning, Sharky. I think it's going to be a game, probably not for the purist. It's going to be it's going to be a war of attrition, and we might have to battle out a result and just wait until we get our more creative players back fit.
Yeah. So it hinges on the fitness of Alvarez. If he overcomes this niggle that he picked up, which kept him out of the Bristol City game, that's what you think is going to be the key to us getting it. And I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that it was. I know everybody sort of went on about against Bristol City the offensive players we was missing, and I've said about we're over. I've said for ages, and you know this. We're playing the players too many minutes. We're not resting them at opportune moments, and you're going to the well. You're going to the well. You're going to the well. Eventually, it's going to run dry. Well, now it's run dry as far as Paquetá and Bowen's concerned. Kudus, as far as I'm concerned, anybody that moans about him going to AFCON needs their fucking head looking at, because it's like, did we know he was Ghanaian when we signed him? Yes, we did. Do we know that they play an African continental tournament every 2 years? Yes, we do. Do we know it's in January time? Yes, we do. Did we still sign him anyway, knowing all that? Yes, we did. So why the fuck are we moaning? So as far as that's concerned, case closed, done, move on.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, Edson Alvarez for me, soon as he's missing, as I say, there's a certain lack of dynamism when we've just got Soucek and Ward-Prowse. They're good players in and of themselves. They fulfill the roles that they do when Alvarez is there, and like you say, they add something. They have their deficiencies as well, but they add something, and the three of them is a decent blend. Take Alvarez out of the mix, now that doesn't function so well. So I think you're right. I think that if Alvarez plays, we're in a much better shape as far as the engine room is concerned. If he isn't, oh dear.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this a few times, Rob. I think we are lacking in options in central midfield, especially with Paquetá being out and Alvarez having a bit of an illness, Downs being on loan. I won't harp on about that, but he scored and played well yesterday. And the fact that we're heavily linked with Kevin Phillips, I think Moyes and the management team think we are light in central midfield. So, hopefully Alvarez is back. So I think it's very quickly he's established himself as a key player.
Yeah. The news is, Mark, just in case you weren't sure, it was a calf injury against Bristol City, and it's uncertain as to whether he's going to be well enough to participate today. It will all be revealed an hour before kickoff when the team sheets are announced, but there is a question mark over Alvarez, so we'll wait and see. I'll be perfectly honest with you, Sharky. I've not watched a single second of AFCON, and this probably sounds really sort of blinkered or whatever. The only continental tournament I really ever watch is the European Championships, because I'm English, so I'm in Europe. That's my continent. I don't watch AFCON. I don't watch the South American tournaments. I don't watch the North American tournaments. I don't watch the Australasian, the Asia Cup, any of that. I'm not. It's not something that really I gravitate towards. So I've not seen it, if I'm being perfectly honest. I hope Kudus. I hope Kudus doesn't do well, or more pertinently, Ghana don't do well, because the sooner they're out of the tournament, the sooner he's back. And again, that's me just being completely honest and open, and it might not be a popular opinion, but that's me. I hope that Ghana bomb and that Kudus is on the first plane out of there.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually watched. I had it on the Ghana-Egypt game for a few reasons, because number one, it was on the telly. Like, not all of the games are on. The fact that Kudus was playing, I wanted to watch it. And the fact that it was Egypt, you know what I mean? That's a big clash, Egypt versus Ghana. And it was a decent
team.
Yeah, it was, which is surprising. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people wouldn't think that. But obviously Mo Salah was playing, Kudus was playing. Kudus scored a couple of good goals. And there was part of me, Rob.
This will trigger you.
Yeah, I would. But what I was going to say, Rob, is there's part of me that thinks, because I'm pretty sure if Egypt would have beat Ghana were out. But Kudus was coming back. The fact that they've drawn, it goes to the next game. And I think Ghana have got Mozambique, who they'd probably be favourites to beat. So I think Ghana probably will go through. But there was part of me that was thinking, well, I hope they go out. But then there was part of me thinking, do you know what? I actually quite like Chris Hughton, who's the manager of Ghana.
Okay.
And you know what I mean? I thought I'd like to see him get a bit of success and go a bit further in the tournament. And, you know, Mohamed Kudus, as no doubt a proud Ghanaian, I'd like him to go a bit further in the tournament. So I think, you know, even if it means that we're without him, good luck to him.
Oh, yeah, good luck to him. But
Yeah.
from a purely West Ham selfish point of view,
Yeah.
I want Ghana to go out of the first round. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
selfish. And there's lots of Ghanaian people that would tell me off. But it's just like, look, I'm purely thinking of West Ham here. He's arguably our best player. Certainly in terms of offensive output. So I want him back as soon as possible. So Ben, what would be your starting 11 for today? Bearing in mind the ones we know are missing. Obviously, you've got to scrub them off the list. There's a couple that are maybe will, maybe won't. So it's, you know, what would you pick?
Right. So I'm going to go for Areola in goal.
Yep.
Left back Emerson. I'd go for a back two. And we, to be honest, we're struggling a little bit in the centre half positions. I genuinely would be going Ogbonna and Mavropanos, regardless of. I genuinely would. I think Ogbonna didn't put a foot wrong when he was playing.
Okay. Yep.
Then got bombed. Mavropanos had a bit of a shit show last week, but I don't think Zuma would play particularly well either. And I think, do you know what? With Mavropanos, I think what it was, he was trying to do too much. But I think what was apparent to me is because Alvarez wasn't in there, and because Souček and Ward-Prowse weren't really trying to progress the ball forward, Mavropanos was trying to do it at every opportunity. He was, do you know what I mean? He was trying to put the ball through the eye needle to try and get moves going, and as a result, he kept giving the ball away. But I think if Alvarez is in there, I'd go back two of Mavropanos and Ogbonna. It'd probably be Zuma, but you know that's what I'd go for. I would go Ben Johnson. 100% has to start at right back. Right?
I agree.
This lad come in. He hasn't been used. Coming against Brighton, our last Premier League game, was one of the best players in a claret and blue shirt. Well, I wouldn't say he tore up trees, but he was one of the better players. He was looking composed on the ball. He played well against Liverpool in the cup, albeit we got pumped 5-1. He set up the goal. Right? When he's come on, he's looking a threat. He's getting the ball down. He's looking composed. He's cutting inside. He's finding the player. Kufel, in my opinion, is out of form defensively. Yep. I think we need to start Ben Johnson.
Agreed.
And I think a lot of the fans from social media are thinking the same. Fingers crossed, Alvarez is fit and available. And I think the midfield three probably picked themselves on the basis that there's fucking no one else. that would be Alvarez, Souček, Ward-Prowse. You could try and throw one of the young lads in there, but I think the reality is it's not going to happen. They haven't had a single minute, really, like to Lewis Orford or anyone else. He's not going to throw him in. Got to be realistic in that.
But does that maybe sort of, before you sort of continue there, Ben, just to sort of drill down into that, does that maybe sort of show a little bit of naivety? Because could they not have put a recall clause into the contract of Freddie Potts going to Wickham? Could he have not been an option?
Yeah, but I think, look, I think Moyes' view is probably that a season of first-team football is better for Potts, and that he'll come back next season and be a real possibility. I think Moyes is probably just happy with what he's got, and that he'll take. The fact is, if Alvarez is fit and Paqueta's fit, then we do have a few options in the middle of the park, albeit not a wealth of options. Fornals, you would like to think could go in there, but he hasn't really performed, and he's an injury doubt. So I think the midfield three picks itself, and they need to liven up. And then the front three is, it's a bit of potluck who you might go with. I would generally go with Mubama up top. I think people are writing him off. He ain't, he's had a couple of chances. Yeah, he didn't look absolutely mustard, but I think the lad's probably a bit nervous. And
10 minutes though.
Yeah, well, no, he had more than that in the first game against Bristol City, didn't he? But look, I just think I generally would go with a front three of Mubama, Marshall, and Maxwell Cornet. It's a bit of a risky one, but I just think Mubama has got a bit of physical presence. He's pretty quick, albeit he hasn't actually looked it in some of the games he's played. Marshall come on and done a little cameo. And I think, listen, Cornet, by no stretch of the imagination, played particularly well against Bristol City. But I think he ain't had a chance. He did grow into the game a little bit. And, if their goalie doesn't pull off a great save, he gets an assist with the Souček cross to Souček. So, I actually think, I think that's the best of what we've got. Ings just, Ings just looks so slow, and and I feel for him because I feel like he's giving it a go when he's playing, but it's just not coming off, mate. He just needs a fresh start. So that's who I'd go for, Rob. I think there's enough experience in there. There's a bit of youthful exuberance, and I just think, listen, anything in life, football especially, it's about confidence. And I think if you're saying to like Mubama and Marshall, go on, lads, like, we're going to start you. You're going to get your chance. Just that will give them the confidence boost. Then Mubama coming off the bench, you're always, you're not feeling settled.
Yeah. I'd go Areola. I'd go with apologies for the dog barking. I would go with a 4-3-3, and it would be left to right, back four would be Emerson, Ogbonna, Zuma, and Ben Johnson. I agree with you. I think that Ben Johnson has looked, not a world beater, but comparatively to Kufau, I think he's looked better than him. So I'd chuck him in. I know people say, oh, yeah, but his contract, this, that, and the other. Do you know what? Maybe he'll fucking sign a contract if he thinks he's going to get an opportunity and he's going to be treated fairly. So, it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I wouldn't play Mavropanos because I thought that was a horrendous back pass that he played to Fabianski in the replay. Underhit it so badly, and that was the critical moment. So I just don't think he can start for me ahead of the captain. And whether he should be captain is another matter. But there you go. Alvarez, if he's fit, I think has to play. Stick him in alongside Souček and Ward-Prowse. But I think that, you mentioned your front three, and for me, if he's even close to being fit, Jared Bowen has to start. Because otherwise we've got fuck all up top. Obviously, if he isn't, then okay, maybe your front line becomes more of a realistic prospect. But I think that if Jared Bowen's even close to being fit, I think you have to start him and then see what unfolds. And look, I know that we did it with Paquetá against Bristol City in the last game, and it went a little bit wrong, and that's fine. But I think we're in a position now where I just think that I don't think we got an awful lot of choice personally. So I would go Bowen. I would probably go. I don't think you got an awful lot of choice really. I think you'd have to play Cornet by default, whether you want to or not, whether Moyes wants to or not. But I think you ain't got a choice. And then probably Mubama as well. So I'd play Bowen on the right of that particular three. So be interesting to see what happens. Like I say, whether Alvarez is fit. Look, I'll be honest. I think if Alvarez and Bowen both miss out, I think that we got a major problem on our hands.
Yeah, Yeah, I do, mate. Like I say, I think I'm not accounting that Bowen's going to be involved, and I think if Alvarez is in there, we can get by and probably nick the 3 points. I do genuinely think if combined with the other players that are out, as a minimum, Adrian, I'd like to see 3 on the pitch, let alone on the bench.
Be nice.
But I think if Alvarez and Bowen isn't there, all of a sudden you'd be looking at both teams and saying they look pretty equal. And that's the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that half of our team would be out, and all of a sudden the other half, you're starting to think, well, they don't look that great. They're okay, but it's our creative spark that win us the games. Do you know what I mean? So, like just going back very briefly, Rob, like Ben Johnson. I heard an interview with him the other day. I think this was after the Brighton game, and he actually come out and said he was a very humble young man. He said, "Look, I don't expect to start every game, but I just, and I think if he felt he was being treated fairly, then he would sign a new contract, and we'd see a better player, a more confident player. Because I think there's a footballer in there, mate. I really do. So look, hopefully he gets a chance. But who knows? We might see. Moyes might throw a masterclass and mix it up, and we get the 3 points. So I've got my fingers crossed.
Let's talk about score predictions. So Ben, talk to me. How's this game going to pan out in your opinion?
Do you know what, Rob? I think it's so, as we've just touched on, there's a few injury doubt. Well, there's a few injuries that we know are certain and people that aren't playing, but the Bowen and Alvarez is so critical to our success. On the basis that it would seem they're both maybe 50-50, I would take a draw. I really would. I know that might sound a bit negative, but bearing in mind they're rooted to the bottom of the league. But I just think with the players that we've got out, going away from home, keep the unbeaten run going, I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to go optimistic, and I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham. I think we're going to probably shithouse it. But yeah, it'll probably be a last-minute Soucek goal, and it'll probably be that we don't look very good during the course of the match. But I'll take that. That's not a problem. We'll move on. But it really wouldn't surprise me if we got stuffed as well. So again, if it all hinges for me on the two players, Alvarez and Bowen for me. But we'll see. Yeah. But right, I think that's an opportune moment to wrap things up. So Ben, thank you for your time today. As guys have been watching at home, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your socials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell icon and click all for alerts and new content. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support. And please don't forget to give your support to the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity. We will see you next time. Take care. Come on, you Irons.
Come on, you Irons.
The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supplies sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.
Massive,